Hello everyone and welcome to Dine with Dragons. We'll be talking about the Dance of the Dragons, giving much focus on what we've seen so far in the TV show House of the Dragon. Well, I'll be getting a few references from the book Fire and Blood, but don't worry, we won't be getting beyond the events that we've already seen in the first season of the show. And there are going to be some spoilers from both the TV show and the book, but don't worry, we won't be getting beyond the events that we've already seen. So today I'm going to be discussing on why I think King Viserys the First is to blame for the Dance of the Dragons, this civil war that saw the demise of House Targaryen, of the Targaryen dynasty as we know it, and the dance of the dragons, the dying of the dragons, is more fitting. So Viserys was the one who took over the Iron Throne after King Viserys the Conciliator in 101 AC. Oh God, it's not in 101 AC. It's I think in 103 AC, if I'm not mistaken. In 101 AC, that was when the Council of Harrenhal or the Council of 101 was held at Harrenhal to choose the successor, because both of Jaehaerys' kids, they had died. Both of his sons had died, and he had to choose an heir between Viserys and Rhaenys. Those were his grandchildren and stuff. And yeah, so Viserys was, in my own opinion, he wasn't really a good king, because some of the decisions that he made were quite questionable. We can compare some of the decisions that he made when he chose his heir. We can compare those decisions to how his predecessor Jaehaerys, okay. I'm very sorry, I will get these names mixed up. I don't know why why George did that. It's Jaehaerys. There's Jaehaerys, Jaehaera and stuff. You know, those Targaryen names, you can easily get them mixed up. I'm talking about King Jaehaerys. I'm very sorry, I don't know what is happening to me. I always get his name right, but I don't know today. We're talking about Jaehaerys, the Conciliator, right? We can look at the decisions that he made when he chose his heir. Like, he knew that there was a dispute, there was Rhaenys and there was Viserys. And there were people who favored Rhaenys and there were people who favored Viserys. And he had to hold a great council. He had to unite all the lords of the realm under one roof so that they could vote on whom they thought was the better successor, who they wanted to be the king. Like, because the opinions of the lords also matter on this, because they are the ones that are controlling the realms from the far ends of Westeros where they are ruling from and stuff. Yes, the king Jaehaerys is the king. I'm very sorry, Jaehaerys is the king, but we have to consider the opinions of the lords, right? So he did the right thing. He united them all in at Harrenhal, and they chose Viserys over Rhaenys because Rhaenys was a woman. That's what we get from the show, right? Because Rhaenys was a woman. Look at what Viserys does. Viserys just holds a small council, and then he doesn't really, the first thing was that he didn't have an heir, right? He couldn't sire any children through Aemma, because Aemma, she had miscarriages and stuff, and she died in childbirth, so he didn't have an heir. But we can look at the laws, right? Before we even go to the small council and discuss about this succession thing, he already had an heir. Daemon was his heir, because it's obvious, like, when a king dies, his brother is the one who takes over him as the successor to the throne, but he goes on to choose Rhaenyra, his daughter, as his heir, and skips over Daemon. Yes, we know Daemon was not someone who was loved by all. Daemon had his flaws. There was the heir for a thing that happened between him and Viserys and stuff, but I don't think that was wise enough for Viserys to just skip him over those things. Like, even if Viserys had two sons, maybe the older one was disobedient, the older one was like Daemon, and then the young one was obedient and stuff, there was no way you could skip the older one in favor of the younger one, basically because of their kind of like of how they handle situations and stuff. It's not right. We have to follow the succession line. The older one gets the throne. Daemon was the one who was to be king. You don't look at favors. You don't do favors when we're looking at this thing. You are the king. You have to look at the realm as a whole. You have to consider. There was no way you could avoid a conflict by skipping someone and naming another an heir. Okay, maybe let us go with what the show did. The show added this whole thing with the White Walkers. There was this prophecy, Aegon's prophecy, right? I think they did it because, maybe Viserys was like thinking of how Daemon would handle that kind of like thing. Was he going to protect that prophecy? He basically would not, but Daemon, he would protect that prophecy. Daemon, there are things, Daemon is disobedient. Daemon does some bad things, but I think if it comes to his family, if it comes to the Targaryen dynasty, to the Targaryen legacy and stuff, he will keep his word. He will keep that prophecy and stuff. But yeah, so the first error that Viserys did was to name Daemon as his heir. The second error was the first error that he did was to skip Daemon as his heir, was to exile him. That was the first error that he did. I think it was building more conflict. And then the other error that he did was to name Rhaenyra as his heir. Like, he had to consider the Great Council of Harrenhal, the decision they made. Like, there were two people, there were two claimants, the Iron Throne. It was him, Viserys, and Rhaenys. Rhaenys had a better claim. Rhaenys was the older one. But the people, they didn't name Rhaenys as his heir because, as Jaehaerys' heir, because she was a woman. It was decided at the Great Council of Harrenhal that a woman cannot lead Westeros. The Lords of the Realm, they don't favor women taking up the throne. So, naming Rhaenyra as his heir was just contradicting the very thing that made him king. Because Rhaenys could have been queen. I don't know why he made such a decision. Yes, he didn't have an heir and stuff, but he did, had no need to rush things. Like, he could have remarried. Like, he had more time to remarry and do stuff. I don't know why he had to name Rhaenyra as his heir. He could have married Alicent and had Aegon and the other ones, Aemon and stuff. He could have them before he kind of like name Rhaenyra as his heir. Like, he wasn't dying, he wasn't in his deathbed, that he could name. I don't know, it was wrong. I'm Team Blake, yes, but I think that decision that he made, it was very wrong. It was very wrong. I also go to so that's the second reason why I blame Viserys for the war, right? The third reason was marrying a high tower. I don't know, I really don't know. There were many people who were on the table. He could have married. He could have married Lady Lena Valerian. Yes, she was young, but we are in Westeros, so that doesn't really matter. We are not in 2022 on Earth. We are in Westeros. Like, he could have waited for her to flower and stuff, and then he could bed her and stuff. But we have to consider the realm, guys, because in the books, like, there was a rift between House Valerian and House Targaryen. There was a rift, and he had to fix that by marrying Lady Lena, but he didn't. He chose not to. Like, he followed his heart. Like, you cannot follow your heart if you're a king. You have to follow by the norms and the rules. I don't know why Viserys. I have an issue with Viserys. Like, he could have married Lena. There were other candidates. I've forgotten them, but I think there were other candidates that were offered. But he chose Hightower, and we know Hightower's, I don't know. Otto Hightower, he was a bastard. I hate Otto Hightower. I don't know, maybe King Viserys didn't see that Otto Hightower was a very, very... I hate Otto. From the books, is the one that I hate the most. But in the TV show, I think I now hate, say, Kristen Cole more than I do Otto Hightower. But yeah, that's it. That's the other thing. He could have married someone other than a Hightower. But he did it. He married Alicent. He had to follow his heart. And then he went on to say children. He had to say Aegon, Aemond, and there's the other one. There's the other boy who's in Old Town that we don't get to see in the show, but he is there. Is Daron, Darren the Daring, Darren the Daring. We will see him, I think, in the second season. And then there's Helena, the girl and stuff. He went on to have 3 boys. And he thought it was fine to just keep Rhaenyra as the heir. I don't know why he could have changed that thing. It was easy for him to just say, okay, Rhaenyra, I don't think you're the heir of the Iron Throne and stuff, because I now have sons, so please can you take back and stuff. He could have renamed his heir. I don't know why he went on to think that it was better for Rhaenyra to be the heir. I don't know. That's where I have an issue with Viserys. This, when you look at him, is he a good king? He is not a good king because he is not considering the things that are happening. And now his court, it later turned on to the blacks and the greens, and they are now having conflicts on one another. And it happens like, it's not something that was like happening behind closed doors. It's not something that was like he was not seeing them. He could clearly see that his wife and his daughter, they had issues. We saw that in the second in episode 7 at Driftmark, they fought. In the books, they had an issue in the books. Alicent, they did the thing that was in the books. They fought. Those 2 women, they fought. And it was obvious if he was going to die, they were going to continue on fighting. I don't know why he didn't say that. He could have settled everything by just naming Aegon as his heir. It was the right thing. He now had his heir. Viserys has to blame. I'm not saying that Aegon has to be king. No. If Viserys didn't say that Aegon was king, then he has no right to be king. So I'm not on Team Grim. I'm on Team Black. Rhaenyra didn't want this. She wasn't in any of this. The other fact that I think Viserys is to blame, is that it was clear that Rhaenyra's children were bastards. I'm sorry, I'm Team Black, but it was very clear to us all book readers that Rhaenyra's children were bastards. Yes, it wasn't Rhaenyra's fault, because Lena was gay and she had no choice. She had no choice. She had to say children of her own, and she had to find them from Harren Strong. But I think as the king, Viserys should have been hard on her. He should have been harsh and be like, you are the heir to the Iron Throne. You should not do this. You should not say bastards. I'm now removing you to being the heir and stuff. He could have removed Rhaenyra as his heir, but he didn't. That was where that's where I only have an issue with Viserys. And then he goes on to make them reconcile. I don't think that thing works. We all know that it doesn't work. Like, you cannot force people to reconcile and then toss to each other and think that everything goes well. These 2 factions, the Greens and the Blacks, they hate each other. Like, one faction has got an eye of the other faction. It was horrible. The fight. The war had already begun, and Viserys, he couldn't see it. Like, and in the 8th season, he goes on to kind of like tell Alice and all those things. Okay, he did it. He didn't do it on purpose, but he has to blame. Like, you see, he is to blame. Like, he said the wrong thing at the wrong time. Yes, he was under the milk of the puppy, but it's him. He's the one to blame. Yeah, he's the one to blame. The other people, they are to blame for the Dance of the Dragon. Rhaenyra was to blame. She had bastards. Why was Rhaenyra to blame? She had bastards, right? I think that's the only reason she had to blame, I think. That she had bastards. So she's right. Alicent had to blame. She forgot her husband's words that Rhaenyra was to be. She was a fool. Alicent is to blame because she's a fool. How could she possibly take the word of a man who's under the milk of the poppy at night and stuff? She's a fool. So she's to blame. Aemond is to blame. He played with a little kid on a dragon. I don't know what kind of a man does that. Aegon is to blame. He's a bastard. He's just, he's not a good. Everyone is to blame. I don't know. Everyone is to blame. Otto, Kristen Cole, who else? Damon is to blame. Hilarious. Who else? Mushroom. Okay, I think that Viserys, if he had made the wise decisions, like we could have seen dragons in the time of Daenerys and Jon Snow. Yes, we saw them, but they could have been many. There could have been many Targaryens and stuff, and the White Walkers could have been defeated quite as Aegon prophesied it. And the war prophecy, it was lost because of Viserys. He is the one to blame. And so, if you have your own opinion on this, if you think that, I'm too harsh on Viserys, Rhaenyra is to blame, or there is anyone else who has more blame compared to Viserys, if you have those opinions, or if you support my opinion, if you think that Viserys is to blame for the throne, you can write down your comments in the comment section. And if you like my video, please do share, subscribe, click on the notification bell below, and like the video. So until we meet next time, peace.